What it do, NMA crew? Hey man, listen, today I'm going to be ranting about an album and a song per the request of Funky Boy Haas on Patreon. The album is The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars by David Bowie, and then there's The Wonder of You by Elvis Presley and the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. So, I guess I'll start with the Elvis thing, because it's a lot quicker. It's a really good song. The only place I knew it from was, I know that it's vaguely connected to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I don't know whose stand it is, but I know all those stands are named after random songs, and that is one of them. It's interesting because, it's a song. It's like, I don't know why you love me so. I'm so madly in love with you. Why are you so madly in love with me? I'm just so happy about it. It's a very beautiful, somewhat operatic song, especially when you get the Philharmonic Orchestra involved. Whatever Philharmonic means, I don't know. But it's really good in a very straightforward way that I think is pretty universally enjoyable. And it kind of points to that phenomenon that people seem to get to when they're in love, where they just don't even know how to think straight, man. And I can't wrap my anime YouTuber head around it, because never had a serious girlfriend. Anime YouTuber kind of goes hand in hand, and I don't know. It's pretty. It's funny to see how much people lose their heads, but it's very beautiful. It's very beautiful to see. I love songs. I love seeing people happy because I'm a big old softie, and it seems to make people really, really happy. So it gets my stamp of approval. Onto the David Bowie album. This is actually something that I believe I gifted my brother the vinyl of this for Christmas last year, a few years back. And I hadn't actually listened to it. I listened to some other David Bowie stuff. I mean, everybody's heard songs, incredibly iconic artist. He had a very storied career. Some call him a bisexual icon, which is really weird because, apparently he said he was gay, and then he was like, wait, let me clarify, I'm bisexual, and then he was like, that's the biggest mistake I ever made, and then he called himself a closeted heterosexual. Man, I don't know what it is, but whatever he is, I am, you know what I mean? And this character of Ziggy Stardust seems to be some sort of, I guess, Moon Man pops. I guess he's just an alien in general, not specifically from the moon, but he seems to be some sort of rock star from outer space who's here to just rock everybody's world. He feels so incredibly different, and it is, as the title would suggest, his rise and fall. So it's interesting that he decided to channel. It's like a concept album. And he decided to, channel his artistic vision through this specific character that is an alien. Obviously, an alien is a very straightforward shorthand for feeling like an outsider, finding it difficult to relate to people, being different in whatever way that may be. And that lends itself to him being a very good rock star. A lot of great artists throughout history, a lot of the most lovable personalities are people who are a little bit weird, who present something that not everybody is used to seeing, who are unafraid to be themselves, and eccentric, and all of those great things. But it's interesting because it sort of portrays this sense of loneliness, even, in spite of the fact that he ostensibly has a band who he might not actually, treat that well because he is very absorbed in his own ego. But this central metaphor sort of communicates an idea of loneliness, which ends up interacting interestingly with the fame, because you don't relate to a lot of people, right? So you can't see them. You have a hard time seeing yourself within them. But then when all of those people start to cheer for you and start to, come to all your shows and pay their hard-earned money to see you and all this stuff, you start to feel, fairly linearly superior or something along those lines. You start to see yourself as just kind of like a god, I guess. You start to see yourself as not necessarily different, but better, because you don't have a reverence for them the way they have it for you, and you don't feel that you're on the same level because you've never been able to relate to them. And I think that's kind of what the central metaphor is about, a difficulty with relating to people, yet seeming to resonate with so many, which is probably something that he's experienced in his own life. He seems very critical of himself, fame, ego. He's obviously an extremely eccentric man and performer, and I guess there's a little bit of a balancing act in terms of not letting your larger than life personality become overly egotistical just because everybody's praising it, because it's hard not to. It's hard not to when everybody's praising you for how weird and wacky and crazy you are. And eventually, once that sort of shores up, all of that attention that you got when it inevitably runs its course, you feel exceptionally lonely. And then towards the end, and my favorite song from this album, I believe it's called Rock and Roll Suicide, it seems like it's like David Bowie calling out to Ziggy Stardust, or some sort of internal voice within Ziggy Stardust calling out to himself saying, like, listen, I still understand you. You're not alone. You feel alone, but you've always had, yourself. You've always had understanding. You've had this form of artistic expression. It's not over, but it can feel like it's over once you've lost your entire connection to people. Because as much as it gives you this God complex and this feeling of superiority, it is your only link. You don't know how to interact with people normally, because why would you ever? It seems so much less glamorous and fulfilling than interacting with them in such like a bombastic rock star way. But ultimately, you don't have those deeper connections, and once the shallow stuff starts to fade, you find yourself alone once more, just like you were at the beginning. And so it just sort of speaks to a Band-Aid on a problem that allows you to get older without getting any wiser, is how I would put it. It's a very emotional album. The last song gets like super somber and totally changes up the tone of how the entire thing was going. Cool concept, dope. Interested to hear more from David Bowie. Really compelling lyricist, great vocalist, just a really cool guy. So that's pretty much all I have to say about these. Y'all have a good one.